cooking outside of Louisiana, but of course it's not going to be the same. So what would you say is sort of the most misunderstood Louisiana seafood dish that you got to eat here and nowhere else?
Well, what a great question that is. It's about the misunderstanding and Louisiana-style seafood dishes coming out of restaurants or places around the country. And I think the most important thing about that is this. If I was gonna, or if any of the chefs of New Orleans were gonna go in, including Tori McPhail here, to open, say, a Chinese restaurant, and we're going to go to Beijing to do it. Chances are pretty good. We would take about 5-10 years of good study to make sure we understood clearly all of the philosophy, the technique, the understanding of the history, the culture of the cuisine, the ingredients, the areas of the country, the world they come from. And all of these things are extremely, extremely important when trying to duplicate or replicate a cuisine. And I think what happens in American kitchens in general is that we're so close to our regions. If we're in southern cooking, whether it's in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, well, it's okay to improvise on the spices and the ingredients. If you're getting Gulf shrimp out of Florida, oh, it's okay, you can do a shrimp etouffee. It doesn't really matter where it's coming from. I think the most important thing about cooking in general is understanding the culture from which it came. And here in Louisiana, where we have 7 unique nations, all arriving on our shores in 100 years of time span. The Native Americans were here first. The French came in 1689. Right after the French, the Spanish came. The Germans came 1725 to set up our farms and do the construction of the city. After that, the Africans came against their will in slavery and brought with them magnificent raw ingredients and cooking technique. After that, the English came after the War of Independence from New England down to Louisiana and brought with them their love of social life, their wonderful vegetable gardens and herb gardens. And then, of course, the Italians escaping the reunification movement and the failure of Garibaldi in Italy and coming as dock workers from Sicily into Louisiana. So between 1689 and 1860, you have 7 nations coming here and bringing with them their uniqueness, their ingredients, their love of cooking, their romantic countryside. They brought with them their desire to entertain, and intermarrying into each of these families brought about the Crayolas, the mixture of colors, the Crayola brand crayons, the mixture of color in a box, or the mixture of cultures in the veins. So when we talk about what makes Louisiana cooking difficult in some ways to transport, it's not because it's difficult cooking, it's very simple cooking in most cases, because we have such rich raw ingredients, 4 great growing seasons, unbelievable raw materials from wild game to shellfish and seafoods. But without understanding the 7 nations, without understanding the cultures and the spices that they brought with them, you saw curry hit the table this morning. If you don't understand that all of the hot spices like the cayenne, the Tabasco, the habaneros came from the south of the Rio Grande, and sweet peppers came from north of the Rio Grande, it's going to be difficult to understand which one goes over the shrimp etouffee. If you don't understand that etouffee came with the French and that it means to smother. To smother in what? Onion, celery, bell pepper, garlic, green onion, parsley, tomato. That came back with the Columbian exchange from South America to Europe and then back after Columbus took it there. If you don't understand the travel of the tomato from South America and the Inca and Aztec Empire back to America with the Italians or the Spanish, chances are you're not going to know the understanding of what spice went into the pot. So I encourage everybody to first of all realize Louisiana cooking is a melange of a lot of different nations, not difficult to duplicate, but unless you buy into the passion, unless you buy into the culture, unless you buy into the strong culinary history of the state going all the way back to the Native Americans. Remember, they were cooking here 4,000 years. The Native Americans were cooking in Louisiana 4,000 years before Jesus walked the earth, before Ramesses was on the throne in Egypt. Native Americans were cooking in what is now North Louisiana's Poverty Point. So unless you understand the history and the culture, it's a little difficult to duplicate the dish. But you know what I always say? Even a bad Louisiana dish, if they're using Louisiana ingredients, be a pretty damn good dish. Yeah, it's not about throwing in and piling on. We have a saying in jazz music, more ain't better. More ain't better. Well, more ain't better in Louisiana cooking either. It's understanding what is enough. That's what Louisiana's all about. Y'all, one of Louisiana's top chefs, if not Louisiana's top chef, the king of Louisiana seafood, the winner of the Louisiana Seafood Cook-Off this past year, the chef, the executive chef of the world-famous Commander's Palace restaurant, the Brennan's Icon restaurant, Ella Brennan and his family's Icon restaurant in New Orleans. A guy who has followed the steps of Paul Prudhomme and Emeril Lagasse in that fabulous restaurant, among many others. And a guy that I'm not only proud to say is one of the top chefs of Louisiana, but also a very close personal friend, Chef Torrey McPhail. Let's give him a big hand.
Thank you very much, Chef. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Chef.
So how's everybody today? Yeah, y'all all right? You know, it's a good Saturday. We can hang out at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and tip back a couple of cold ones, isn't it? Yeah? I'm going to be joining you here shortly. So we're cooking great, fresh Louisiana seafood today. And if y'all haven't noticed, it is screaming hot outside. So the dish we're going to do today is actually really, really light. But you don't have to sacrifice a ton of calories or great flavor just to eat great light food. So that's kind of the scoop. So what we have here is fresh Louisiana shrimp. These come off of the dock in Grand Isle, Louisiana, just a couple hours south. Okay, they've never been frozen. Literally just got them into the restaurant late yesterday afternoon. We popped the heads on them, cleaned them. And the one good thing y'all should know about shrimp is the larger the shrimp, a lot of times there's a sand line in the back. You don't want to be able to scrape that to make sure that you don't get a little grit kind of going there. So the dish we're going to do today is a Caribbean shrimp salad. Okay? I used to live down in the Virgin Islands for a while, and there's a lot of similarities with what happens in the island and what happens here in Louisiana. At the end of the day, it's all about big, bold, great flavor. And today we don't have to load it up with tons of cream or tons of butter or calories to have good food. So what we're going to do today is, everybody knows what Creole seasoning is all about, right? It's a blackening spice. I know my friends got a ton on the market today. But it's a simple combination of garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, cayenne, black pepper, and salt. That's the deal. Okay? So the only difference we have here for jerk seasoning, we can certainly use the Creole seasoning as the base. We're going to add sugar, a little bit of curry powder, and some coriander. And that's it. Those are probably basic ingredients. Y'all probably have in the cabinet already. There's no reason to go out and buy 2 quart containers. Just add one, a little bit of the curry to it, and you've got great jerk rub. You can throw in your pork ribs or whatever else you all have. Okay? So what we'll do is we'll take some more jerk seasoning, add it right on top of our shrimp here. A little bit of fresh sugar. And I'm not a big guy. I don't weigh 300 pounds. I don't weigh 200 pounds. So these days it seems like people are eating light much more often. So you can come to Commander's, you can sit down and have lunch and get 3 courses for like 20 bucks. And one of the deal is we partner with our friends at Oshner Hospital to do a heart-healthy menu. So you can come in, have brunch somewhere, you can sit down and have a nice light lunch for us in preparation of a great dinner in some of the great restaurants around New Orleans today, and not feel hungover or full. So we've got fresh ginger going in the mix, a little bit of garlic. And this is a simple recipe. You can marinate this the day before. That way you don't have to spend all day in the kitchen while all your guests are in.
Chef, while you're putting that together right now, just a quick step back to talk about your victory as against, I guess, what, 13, 14 states cooking Louisiana seafood here at the competition last year. What do you think actually set you apart to take home the crown, other than your great talent? But what about the seafood used, the menu choices, etc.?
Yeah.
How important was that?
So we ended up cooking a lot with sheep's head. It's a funny sounding fish, but it actually takes the name because the fish itself, the head of it looks like a sheep. It's got 2